Hey everyone, thanks so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Double Demon by 7889. A simple dare changes everything when Naruto ends up in the world of One Piece, able to swim, immune to Sea Prism Stone, and linked to a devil fruit eaten by Kurama. Becoming a double demon, Naruto joins Luffy's crew and quickly becomes a valued nakama. But when Madara kidnaps Naruto and Tobi, the Straw Hat Pirates set sail for a dangerous rescue, testing their bonds and proving how far Luffy will go for a friend. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author, Double Demon by 7889. Respect to author.
Chapter 1, Prologue, Week So Week. 1527-1528. M. 12-1. D. 26-14. When I get older, I won't cry anymore. Usopp. I'll become really strong. Stop. There. That'll be the one to protect you guys. They're my friends. Don't touch them. Dayat. I said, as if a weakling like you. Stop. Could protect anyone. Nami. Shut up. Robin, Frankie, Sanji, Zoro, Jinbei, Chopper. I'll show you. Run. Now. I'll be so strong that. Frankie. Robin. That I'll be able to take on anyone. Running. Run. I can't let the remaining die. Nobody will be able to defeat me. Luffy. And, I won't die, the remaining promise. Please don't die. I'll be able to protect you guys no problem. It's so heavy. The weight. It's too much. It hurts. HMPH. Last time I said that, Zoro told me to bear it. That it was the weight of being the captain. But everyone's lives feel so much heavier. As if we'd want some crybaby weakling to protect us. Please stand up. Anyone. Stand up and tell me to get my act together. Shut up. I'll show you, Ace. It's so hard to keep up this strong act. I don't want to do it anymore. But I have to. The fight isn't over. I can't just slack off, I need to fight. Sabo, would you want someone like Luffy to protect you? He's the pirate king yet he couldn't protect anyone. His crew. His friends. Turao. Well, putting it that way is a little. Turao was one of the first to go. Why couldn't he protect any of them? See, he couldn't even protect Turao's crew who came along. He was useless. Weak. But being saved by Luffy would hurt my pride, yeah. Zorooo. Oi, what pirate king? What captain? He couldn't protect anyone. He can't protect anyone. All he can do is lie bleeding on the ground after beating everyone up. If only he had managed to do that before everyone else was gone. Question mark. M.D. Luffy cries out as his back slams into something. Pain. But he's rubber. It also didn't feel like he bounced off at all. His body did hurt but not like it did before. Luffy opened his eyes to see a monkey's fist about to meet his own face. Gay. Luffy barely managed to dodge in time. Why? It was such a slow punch. His body doesn't feel tired or sluggish, so the monkey turns around and attempts to land another blow. Again, Luffy barely manages to dodge. Why is there a monkey? Why is he in a forest? This is nothing like the area from before. There were no forests on that island. Where is everyone? The monkey comes at him again and Luffy sends a glare. What's the deal with this thing? Gum. Luffy pulls back his pistol. He thrusts his arm forward. But his arm doesn't stretch. Luffy froze and stared at his fist that was, really small. Freezing up was a bad mistake because the monkey took the chance to punch his face again, but this time succeeding. Luffy gets sent flying back and falling roughly onto the unforgiving ground. He hears a sigh that's oddly familiar. And terrifying. And here I thought you were finally taking training seriously. Luffy immediately bolted up and whips his head towards that voice. His eyes widen when they land on the large muscular man standing not too far away from him. He knew that person painfully well. Literally. GGG, the man raises a brow at Luffy's splutter. Gramps. Chapter 2, Awaken on Dawn Island. GGG Gramps. Luffy scrambles to get up, jaw fallen to the floor. What are you doing here? Where is everyone and where are we? What are you talking about? Focus on training. Garp puffed out as Luffy dodged the flurry of punches from the monkey behind him, not even bothering to turn around. Training. This isn't the time everyone. A punch managed to graze his cheek, and Luffy was already losing his little patience. Screw off. Luffy snarled and turned around with a raised leg. Gum gum, he throws a kick that doesn't stretch, even though it should have, why huh? He froze up, once again getting knocked over in the process. Another sigh from Garp. I said to focus on training. You need to become a fine Marine. Luffy bolted up from that, Marine. I don't want to be a Marine. I'm the pirate ow. Another punch to his face from the stupid monkey. An eerily heavy step drew closer to Luffy. Pirate what? Pirate I'm small. Luffy finally realized that he was not in his normal body, but a much smaller version of it. Of course, Luffy received another hit from a monkey, but from a monkey D. Garp instead. And God did it hurt. Ow. He cried out and covered the already growing lump, tears burning at the corner of his eyes. What's this about not wanting to be a Marine? And did you just say something about being a pirate? Garp's eyes narrowed into a dangerous glare that would normally make Luffy's blood run cold if he wasn't so lost and confused. So obviously he continues. That's right. But, Luffy doesn't even have time to say, but that doesn't matter with them gone, because Garp pushed the monkey aside and cracked his knuckles, looking down on Luffy. Move. Looks like he needs to be taught a lesson so he doesn't spout such stupid crap. He grins a grin that screams more than danger. It screams death. Murder. There's a fleeting thought in Luffy's mind that maybe, just maybe he isn't rubber right now for whatever reason. Not that being rubber protected him from Garp's fists of love. But it did protect him from the pain of being thrown on the ground. Or down cliffs. Or bottomless trenches. Luffy has just awoken from literal hell, but right now, cornered against a tree with one singular old man by the name of Monkey D. Garp looming over him. Luffy is suddenly beyond terrified. Yeah, help me. Luffy attempted to scramble away as if his very life depended on it, and it probably did, since it was Garp whom he was running from. You can't escape. Luffy was grabbed and lifted off the ground only to be ruthlessly flung and slammed back down against the tree. Luffy cried out in pain, making breathless hacks and gasps as he tried to regain the oxygen that was robbed from him. Luffy opened his eyes, tears once again threatening to trickle down from his eyes. But his eyes immediately shot open when he saw the giant fist closing in on him. Stow up p. X. Oh wow. Pa, really, being a pirate. Stop saying such stupid things. Garp spat, dragging a confused Luffy by the collar behind him. Like I thought, I'm not rubber anymore. I can't stretch and I feel pain without the use of hockey. Speaking of hockey, my observation hockey feels blocked. Stalled. I can use it, and I can tell it's as good as it usually is, but I need more effort to use it. Also, I'm suddenly small and not on that weird island anymore. Just what is going on? Luffy muttered aloud, drawing the attention of Garp. Training for today is over, tomorrow you'll try again though, so don't even think about trying to slack off. Garp grumbled as he shoved his pinky finger up his nose. Training? Where are we anyway? Luffy bent his head back to look at Garp, and ouch, that hurt his neck. Where? Isn't that obvious? The same place as always, Dawn Island. Garp flung the booger elsewhere, completely unaware of how Luffy's brain was currently trying to process what exactly was just heard. Silence dawned, except for the sound of the gravel under Luffy being dragged. They passed by a few windmills and many fences, being greeted by the villagers. But Luffy wasn't listening. Luffy was still trying to get what was happening through his thick, non-rubber skull. And when it finally did, all Luffy could do is drop his jaw and scream, "EHHH. But that's nowhere near the Grand Line. Of course it isn't. What are you going on about now? A wooden door creaks open as Garp says that, and Luffy is thrown inside. Landing on the floors hurts a lot more than he remembered. Garp-san. Luffy. A young woman called as she ran over to help up the small non-rubber boy who was sprawled out on the floor. Oh, thanks, Makino. Luffy blinked up at the woman, checking his bruises for a few seconds before his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Makino. He jumped up so quickly he nearly fell back down. The woman simply tilted her head. Yes. Her voice was soft, kind. As it always was. What are you doing here? No, what am I doing here? I was just in the Grand Line with everyone in the war. Why am I small now? And a hand was gently pressed against his forehead. Are you okay? Did you have a bad dream? You don't seem to have a fever. Nobody thinks anything is wrong. Is this a dream? Did I die? What? Did he lose some memories? Maybe I hit his head too hard today. Garp looked down on the small boy who was his grandson and then, without changing his uncaring face, shoved his pinky up his nose again and shrugged. Oh well. It'll come back eventually. Garp-san. Luffy is still developing, he's only 5. Please don't push him so far. Makino scolded Garp as she pulled Luffy into a protective embrace. Wait, 5. Pa, he's very much old enough for training. Garp replied as he flung the booger, clearly unbothered. Garp saw. Since when was I 5? Luffy screamed, cutting Makino off in the process. But she didn't seem to mind. In fact, it was quite the opposite, she seemed worried instead. Are you okay, Luffy? She knelt down on eye level with Luffy. Do you remember your name? Your age? What about the date and where you currently are? Please answer everything. Monkey D. Luffy, I'm 22, almost 23, it's real early 1528 last I checked. I was at this weird island where the log pose didn't point to and was fighting with everyone, but I woke up here with Gamps for some reason. Luffy counted off as he answered each question, looking up to see a worried Makino when he finished his reply. It seems you're very confused by your dream. Do you want some milk and food? Makino spoke to Luffy like the small boy he now was. While normally Luffy would never deny any offer of food, especially since he hasn't eaten in days, his stomach didn't even growl at the mention of it. Not after everything he's seen lately. Everyone is. I'm not very hungry right now, he shook his head and mumbled. If everyone else heard that, their jaws would drop, their eyes would pop out, and they would probably be screaming at the top of their lungs. Chopper would probably scream that Luffy is dying, Nami would ask if he's a fake, Usopp would be gasping in absolute horror, Robin would probably make a crude joke like, maybe he was murdered and we're talking to his ghost, and everyone else would probably be making really funny faces. But they're not here to do any of that. Makino's hand was gently placed on his head again, her fingers caressing his scalp and running through his unruly raven black hair. It comforted him, easing his aching chest. Luffy, I'm sure that dream must have been scary. Come on, I'll explain since you seem to be confused about what's real and what was your dream, alright. She sent another warm smile and Luffy could only nod in reply. Garp-san, please refrain from hitting he's gone. Garp, seemingly never in the same place for more than 5 minutes, was no longer there. Makino didn't dwell on it for long and instead took Luffy's small hand, directing him to one of the bar stools. Luffy had always loved sitting on them instead of normal chairs, he felt much taller on them. Before Luffy could even attempt to try to crawl on the much taller than him stool, which would have most definitely led to disaster, Makino's arms slipped under Luffy's and she easily lifted him up, carefully placing him down on the stool. She turned around, walked around the counter, and began preparing something. When she turned back around to face Luffy, she handed him a mug with the words, "Milk," printed on it. His favorite mug as a child. He gladly took it as Makino placed a newspaper in front of him. Look, Luffy. It's not 1528, it's 1511. She pointed to a date on the newspaper. The 2nd of January 1511, day per month per year. That wasn't the date last time he checked. And good thing Luffy hadn't drunk anything yet, because he most certainly have spat it out. He settled for slamming the mug down on the counter, spilling some milk in the process. Nanano 1528 had just started. I went to a cool island in the Grand Line but it ended up being a trap, then everyone, and now, I'm here. Makino calmly shook her head as she wiped up the mess. You've never left this island, well, never went to the Grand Line. You've just been training with Garp like usual. She explained. Luffy spent a good 3 seconds just blinking in pure shock before deciding to full-on chug down the milk, as if he could drink down his confusion with it. So, he panted out before he regained his breath, placing the now empty mug back down. I'm at 22. Another head shake. You're 5, Luffy. Makino replied as she picked up the empty mug. So there was no war. Everyone isn't dead. That sounds like a pretty bad dream you had. Makino casts a worried glance at Luffy who could only give a pained curt nod. It was. He hummed. And it truly was. It was like Sabayati, but worse. His friends were actually dying. He could see all of them fight until their bodies give out, see them fall one by one completely lifeless. Worse, even when he wasn't there to watch them die, he could feel them slowly getting so weak that he couldn't differentiate them from fodder until he couldn't tell what aura that faded was his friends or the enemy. It always hurt when it wasn't the later. And he couldn't do anything to stop it. Do you want to rest up? I'm sure you're tired after your training. Makino asked. Luffy wasn't really tired, but he nodded anyway. Because what else is there to do? He hopped off the stool and began to head upstairs. He had forgotten about his little room that he stayed at before being taken to Dayton's place. He was hardly ever in it in the first place. Wait, if everything was a dream, does that mean nothing ever happened? He never set sail, met everyone, became friends and got both Mary and Sunny go. Never, laughed or cried with everyone. It was all just a dream. Luffy frowned and threw himself on the little futon he had on the floor. It felt weird, he was so used to a hammock or just a blanket. Or nothing at all. Luffy rolled over to his back and brought his hand up to his face, staring at it. It was so small and soft, obviously not a hand that had gone through grueling training at all. So his 2 years of training never happened. Was using observation haki earlier just in his head. Luffy clenched his fist and focused. It took a bit more effort than usual, but soon enough, Luffy's arm became clad in a metallic black. It works. I can use haki. Luffy beamed as he shot up. So it wasn't a dream. He can use haki. Although the moment he lost focus it disappeared. But that proves it wasn't a dream. Right. Everyone really does exist and he really did become friends with all of them. But why was he here then? The date was different too. Then, Luffy's eyes turned into sparkles. I went back into time. So cool. Luffy exclaimed. But how? Who really cares? He certainly doesn't. Then that means everyone is alive like me. Luffy was ecstatic that he didn't even think of the possibility that he might have been the only one. Luffy hopped up and examined his current body. No devil fruit. Small. All round with untoned muscles and scrawny enough for anybody to just pick him up and throw him like paper. And most importantly, weak. He can't protect anyone like this. He couldn't even protect anyone before. He didn't take training very seriously the first time around, until Ace died. But it was still too late. He was in the Grand Line far too deep, involved so much, and prepared so horribly rushed. He nearly died countless times in the New World, because he wasn't strong enough. But always got through with luck and persistence. But that's not enough. That can only take you so far. Just like Marineford, he was too weak in the storm of unbeatable strength and power. But not this time. This time, he'll be the unbeatable storm. Gramps is right, to get stronger, you need tough and unforgiving training. As soon as possible. He still won't be a Marine though. Obviously. Luffy quickly bolted up and ran out of the room, nearly tripping down the stairs. Huh, Luffy, where are you going? Makino asked from behind the counter. Luffy stopped but still jogged in place as he turned towards Makino. To find Gramps. Bye. He gave a quick wave before he took off as fast as his current body could take him. Alright, X. Alright, so he kind of forgot that his observation haki isn't that great for tracking down specific people, so finding Garp was a complete bust. Dang. Well, Garp always just bursted in sometime in the afternoon or dead in the night, or crack of dawn, to drag him off for training, so Luffy will just have to wait until tomorrow. But what to do until then? You got some pretty nasty bruises there. Garp gave you a rough time, A cheerful male voice guffawed. Luffy looked over at the direction of the voice and lit up after taking a few moments to remember who exactly this grinning, pink rope-wearing guy was. Fish Awesome. It's Gyoru. You still can't remember my name, can you, kid? The man, whom Luffy was reminded was named Gyoru, sighed out with an amused slanted grin. She. It's been a while. Luffy snickered and trotted up to the man who rose his brow. You were here just before you got dragged away for training, you know. Oh, really? Forgot. Garp hit your head again or something. Something like that. Luffy cheerfully snickered again as if being beaten by your grandfather was a normal thing. And it basically was, for Luffy at least. Oi, you shouldn't sound all happy about that. Gyoru bent down and ruffled Luffy's hair, making it more unruly than it already was. He didn't stop until Luffy's hair looked like a bird's nest, then snorted with the end result. Luffy himself was also laughing, he didn't mind at all. Oh my, Luffy-kun. Back from training already. A middle-aged woman came up from behind Luffy. Yup, I tried to find Gramps earlier but failed. Luffy frowned and puffed out his cheek, earning a laugh from the two. Is Makino-san doing good recently? She sent a smile. I think. You think. Gyoru rose a brow again. Well, I don't remember anything that happened before most of today. And it wasn't a lie. Yesterday was so long ago and he had woken up in the middle of today. Garp musta really hit your head hard this time. Gramps always hits my head hard. Not a lie either, sadly. Not even when he was rubber did it protect him. Well, I'm glad you're doing okay. The woman, who Luffy finally remembered to be Chicken Gyoru's wife, said as she handed Luffy a basket full of various fruit. Be a dear and take this to Makino and refrain from eating before then, okay? She smiled again. But I've been running around and I'm hungry, as if on cue, Luffy's stomach growled loudly. It could put a wild beast's growl to shame. Well then, you better eat something better than some measly fruit. A large fish normal, non-monster Grand Line-wise was pushed onto Luffy by a grinning Gyoru. Oh, Luffy beamed, slinging the fish over his shoulder to carry the basket in the other hand, thanks. Fish Awesome. It's Gyoru. Luffy snickered and ran off, sandals slapping against the dirt and gravel pavement roads. Whatcha got there, Luffy? A villager asked as Luffy ran by. Gifts from Chicken. And a fish. Gotta give 'em to Makino. Oh, give her my regards. Sure. Various other people called out to Luffy and greeted him on his way back to the bar. He didn't remember the names of all of them, but he did remember the nicknames he had given most of them. He ran faster the moment the bar came into view, running through the wooden doors and running up to the counter to carefully place the basket on the counter. Luffy, you're back. Makino went to the edge of the counter where Luffy was currently struggling to heave the fish onto the very much taller than him counter. Thankfully, Makino helped. Yeah, couldn't find Gramps though. But he'll be here tomorrow, so I guess it's fine. Garp-san, do you need him for something? Yup, training, Luffy chirped. What's this? You look awfully excited about that for once. One of the men in the bar laughed. You're looking to be a marine now. Another snorted, everyone in the bar starting to laugh right after that. Because Luffy, being a marine, nope, pirate. Luffy shook his head and crawled up his favorite stool. Yup, he feels much taller now. The whole bar got silent, everyone glancing at each other that they really heard that correctly. And when they finally realized they did, the room boomed with laughter. People banged on the tables, wheezed and slapped their knees with tears in their eyes. A pirate? You? No way, no way. PFFF the ha. Just wait until Garp-san hears about this. Imagine Luffy, a pirate. Impossible. It's just not possible. I can't imagine it. Ah, this is great. Quit it. Luffy might throw a fit, wouldn't want to make such a scary pirate angry. Now, if this was the child he was before, he would have gotten angry like they said. He would have screamed and cursed, then run off all huffy and pouty in a little fit. But he wasn't 5 anymore. In fact, Luffy didn't even care about the laughing. He simply swung his legs back and forth, satisfied with not feeling as small as he is in this body, pointing to one of the apples in the basket. Nah, can I have one? He asked Makino, who gave a nod. Luffy immediately snatched it, but then got disappointed when he couldn't pop the entire apple in his mouth. Dumb non-rubber body. A cup of juice was served to him by Makino and he gladly took it. Suddenly, sitting on his favorite stool and drinking juice while everyone laughed at him, Luffy was reminded of Shanks. Everyone was even laughing for him, saying that he'll be a pirate just like the first time. Luffy couldn't help his snicker. What's so funny? Makino smiled at Luffy, not at all bothered by the rowdy background in the least. Luffy grinned back, eyes crinkling up and showing off rows of white teeth. Secret. X. Luffy couldn't stand staying in the bar not doing anything after something as cool as time travel happened, so he ran off again, but not after eating that fish Gyoru gave him, of course, yelling that he was going to train. He ran off into an area with some trees, not Mount Corvo, since that was much too far, but a small forest-like area near the mountains leading to Mount Corvo. It wasn't too far from the village, so it wouldn't take long to run back. Luffy decided to see what he could do in his current body and decided the best way to do so was to kick a tree. He didn't do any damage to the tree, just his leg. OWWW. I keep forgetting I feel pain now. Luffy fell back with a cry, clutching his now cut leg. He glared at the tree that he didn't even chip. Luffy then tried various other things like punching boulders and different trees, but all ended in failure. He even lost to a giant bird, which probably wasn't really that giant, since it was about the size of him, and that made it worse. Luffy returned when the sun began setting, covered in bruises and sulky. He couldn't believe it. After all his years of training, he's suddenly so weak. But then again, if he really IWAS back in time with everyone alive, then something like this is nothing if it meant his precious friends are alive. He really couldn't wait until he could see everyone again. The moment he walked into the bar with his injury-covered body and Makino caught sight of him, she immediately ran over and began fretting. Luffy, what happened? You're covered in cuts and bruises. We need to treat them. Ah, blood. There's blood. We need to treat your injuries right away, Luffy. Huh, oh, right, I forgot about them. Fine, it doesn't hurt, Chopper. It's not fine. It could get infected. We need to clean it. I won't let you eat until I treat your wounds. Reporting for duty, sir. Luffy. Makino's worried voice brought Luffy out of his daydream. Oh, sorry. He gave a toothy grin. I was just training and got hurt a lil, but I'll clean my injuries in the bath. Chopper would get mad if he found out he didn't after all. He ran upstairs and made his way to the bathroom. It was simple, a few towels, a bucket, a small stool, and a bath. Luffy quickly got rid of his clothes and grabbed the wooden bucket on the floor, filling it with water and sitting down on the stool. He wasn't a devil fruit user right now, so I could take a bath without drowning or even feeling drained, but it just felt weird without one of his friends or Tarao being with him to prevent that anyways. He dumped the water in his head and began washing his hair while waiting for it to fill up again. He always used a lot of soap, so some of the bubbles fell down onto his face. Guys, check out my masterpiece, the Great Bubble Snowman. Oh, tisk tisk, I expected better from you bro. Let me show you what a real masterpiece is, Super Bubble Launcher. What? You have a bubble launcher? So cool. Whoa, what the hell? Since when did you have something as cool as that? Being a robot isn't fair. But, God Usopp will not give in. Luffy snickered and doused his head in water again to rinse off the soap. He quickly finished up and headed back downstairs where Makino was waiting behind the counter. He let her treat and bandage him, keeping himself occupied by humming and staring out the window. It had been nice clear skies all day, nothing like the weather in the Grand Line. Hurry up and raise the sails. A tsunami and storm will appear soon. We're going to do a coup de burst and gain distance. Zoro, wake up and help out. But it was such a nice day, but a tsunami. So cool. Nah, will it be a super big one? Can we ride it? Stop wasting time and do what I tell you already. Jinbei-kun, keep the course steady the best you can. When we land, the waves will still be bad, so Zoro, I said, wake up and help. Oi, Marimo, don't make Nami Swan repeat herself. Get off your ass and help, you shitty moss. What was that, you arrow cook? What did you just call me, you? Stop fighting and work. Yo ho ho. The skies sure are getting dark. Oh. It's raining. I'm getting soaked to the bone. But I'm only bones. Geez. Everyone is just so. Nami, Chopper and I finished tying the sails. Thanks Usopp, Chopper. Finally, someone who actually listens. Chopper, take the rudder. Frankie, is the coup de burst ready? Anytime. But we only have enough cola for one. That won't be enough to dodge the storm. Just the tsunami, we'll have to ride the storm. Jinbei-kun, Chopper, I'm counting on you. Frankie, coup de burst. Roger. There, all done. Makino gently pat Luffy's head with a smile, making him realize he was daydreaming again. But what were you doing? Your knuckles and legs were all beat up. Training. I'm a lot weaker right now than I thought. Luffy replied as he examined his newly bandaged wounds. He's always hated being bandaged, got in the way all the time. But Chopper would always flip anytime he removed them because of that. Luffy, I know you want to get stronger, but you're only 5. You don't have to push yourself, you know. Luffy didn't get why the fact he was 5 mattered. Of course he had to train, the world didn't care about his age. The moment he declares himself a pirate and the world sees him as a threat, he'll be targeted like before. Plus, I'm the captain, I need to be strong, my crew's lives are in my hands. Well, they're all really strong but still. Makino looked worried, confused, but also worried. She didn't press further though, she simply just sighed with a small smile. His head was gently pet again, which made him let out a yawn. Why was he tired? Luffy heard a giggle from Makino. Why don't you head to sleep? It's already pretty dark out. But it's still so early, and the rest of his sentence was cut off by another large yawn. You have training with Garp-san again tomorrow, right? You don't want to be falling asleep during it, do you? Luffy shook his head. Alright, night. He rubbed his eyes. The sun only set about an hour or so ago, and he didn't do much today, so why was he sleepy so early? His feet were dragging behind him all the way until he made it upstairs to his room. Luffy didn't even get underneath the blankets, because the moment his head touched the pillow, he passed out. Straw Hat Ya. Oi, Straw Hat Ya. Wake up. MN. Is there any reason as to why you suddenly came here, cut off my blood circulation with this inhuman hug, then fell asleep as if everything were normal? I wanted to, so I did. Of course, perfect explanation. Do you do this with everyone? Hug them while I sleep? Sometimes. But Tarao is the only one I always want to do this with for some reason. Whatever. Just unwrap your death grip so I can at least sleep. She. Alright. If you snore too loudly, I'm teleporting you away. Gay. But that's no. Wake up. Luffy's eyes shot open to see a giant fist nearing his face terrifyingly fast. Yeah. Chapter 3. Training begins. To become stronger. Luffy screams at the top of his lungs and desperately attempts to shield his face, which, of course, was futile. Garp's fists penetrated right through Luffy's sorry excuse of a shield and lands right smack on his forehead. Good thing it wasn't his face, or Luffy's nose would most definitely be broken right now. That was an afterthought, though. Something Luffy didn't think about till much later. Because at the current time, there was only one thing on Luffy's mind. Pain. Next thing Luffy knew, he was being dragged downstairs like he was nothing more than luggage. Considering the bar was empty and Makino wasn't behind the counter yet, Luffy figured the bar hasn't opened yet. That was further proven when he was taken outside only to see the sun was barely rising over the horizon. Sooner you're up, sooner you can train. Garp grunted, still dragging Luffy behind him. Normally, Luffy would start complaining and whining. But this wasn't normally. Luffy actually wanted to train now. Really? Hey, can I fight something else besides monkeys? I get stronger. I'm so weak right now and it sucks. He said. Garp stopped dead in his tracks and heaved Luffy up to eye level. Finally, you're willing to become a marine. I knew you'd eventually come around. Garp laughed and carelessly dropped his 5-year grandson on the ground. What? No, I want to become a strong pirate. Not a marine, Luffy protested. How many times did he have to say he wasn't going to be a marine before Garp finally got it? What? You're still saying that? You're going to become a fine marine soldier and that's final. Garp picked him back up and tossed him against the nearest tree, making Luffy yelp and hold the swollen lump already forming. But, I couldn't become a marine anyways cause Dad's a criminal. At least that's what Nami said once. And Nami is smart so she's probably right. Shut up. With some training and discipline, anyone can become a. Garp stopped, and somehow seemed even more angry. How did you know about that stupid son? You told me. Luffy covered his head in fear of another beating. But surprisingly, that didn't happen. Huh, that's so. Oh well, just don't follow his footsteps. Garp huffed, picking his nose. Luffy lowered his guard to deny that. I'm not gonna follow Dad, I'm gonna be a pirate. Goo, that's even worse. Luffy got up and ran away screaming from Garp who was now chasing after him. He just came back to life but now he's gonna die again. Now, these are your opponents for today. Garp jabbed his thumb towards a group of grinning monkeys who seemed to be boxing against the air. Monkeys again. Luffy sulked. Monkeys didn't seem too fun to fight. Shut up. You can't even beat these so don't complain. Garp snapped and ordered the monkeys to attack. Luffy quickly got into position and dodged the blow of one, attempting to punch another in retaliation. Attempting is the keyword here, as his punch did close to no damage. After a few more thrown blows, Luffy realized his attacks were far too weak to win. No speed nor strength in his attacks. Not to mention sloppy due to not being used to his change in body. This is bad. He really is weak. Luffy got knocked over from one of their punches which were sadly stronger than his own. Luffy painfully landed against the rocky ground and got right back up to snarl. That hurt you jerks. The stupid monkeys snickered in reply. He growled like a feral animal and pounced at them, throwing punches, kicks, slaps, bites, anything and everything during his wild rampage. By the end of it, Luffy was beaten and battered up, completely breathless on the floor. But he managed to take one down and tire another, so take that. Get up, you still have 5 more to beat. Garp picked Luffy up and forced him to stand on his feet. Luffy stumbled about with his almost jelly legs but quickly caught his footing. He was still panting for air though. Gee Gramps, my attacks are too weak, there's no force to my blows. He wheezed, wiping the sweat off his forehead. Alright. Garp grunted and crossed his arms, then added, get down and give me 300. Luffy blinked up at Garp in obvious confusion. What are you doing just standing around? Hurry and do 300 push-ups. He whacked Luffy from behind the head and made him fall flat on his face, not so patiently waiting for Luffy to do as he was told. Luffy slowly pushed himself off the ground after a few still moments, brain gradually ticking. What? He stared up at Garp. He heard him wrong. Right. I said, do 300 push-ups. Now. What? Stop dragging your feet and move. Garp turned around to look at Luffy who looked just about ready to collapse with those trembling legs of his. Gramps, why did you make me run laps around the forest? His legs finally gave out and Luffy splattered against the ground. You only ran 2 laps before giving up midway on the 3rd. Garp shook his head with a disappointed sigh, looking down on Luffy's fallen form. Food, Luffy groaned. He had a foggy memory of being picked up and carried on Garp's back, but it was hard to truly remember as he was out like a light moments later. 1511. 2D6. Happy birthday, Robin. Wah, what a big cake. Is it really for me? Darushishishi. Of course. Come on, hurry and blow out the candles and eat up. Thank you, Sao. I found her. Robin snapped herself awake and immediately took off, dodging the bullets flying behind her. Oh, everyone, you came. Of course. Today is Robin's birthday. Congratulations, Robin. Kill her. Kill the devil's child. Robin darted into the nearest alleyway and held her breath, waiting for them to come after her. Find her. One of the Marines ordered as they ran in. As their footsteps gradually drew closer, Robin shut her eyes and crossed her arms, focusing. Seconds later, arms bloomed on the now panicking Marines. Crack, she let out a sigh of relief and looked up, gazing at the still night sky. It was quiet now, but it most likely wouldn't stay that way for long. More Marines will most likely come in their place and chaos will once again erupt. The cold night breeze flowed through Robin's hair. 17 already, huh? She decided not to stay in the area much longer lest more show up sooner than expected. Already planning to run away to another island, Robin leaves the alleyway and makes sure not to stand out on her way to one of the ports. The nearest port might already have Marines there, it wouldn't be safe. Someday, without a doubt, you will find friends who will always protect you. No one is born into this world alone, Robin. I'm really starting to question that. Saul. X. 1511. M. 2. D. 18. Luffy dug his right foot into the ground, right arm curled back and fist clenched tight. He swung his head to the side to dodge the punch his target gave, snickering at the face the monkey wore when he did. Too slow. Luffy taunted. His entire body curved to follow the flow of his punch right in the monkey's face, making it fall back. It laid defeated on the ground, unable to stand back up. How's revenge taste, huh? Beside that monkey laid 12 other unconscious monkeys, the one that had fallen being the final one in his way. Luffy threw his arms up in triumph. Woo! I beat them all again. He grinned and looked down at his small hands, opening and closing them. I'm finally getting the hang of this body. Don't get too worried away, this is only the beginning of your training. Garp cut right through Luffy's excitement. Don't make that face. To become a future Marine, no training is enough. Luffy stuck his tongue out like the very mature adult he is. Well, I'm gonna be a pirate. Taunting Garp was, of course, a beyond horrible mistake. He nearly bit his tongue off when he was punched the top of his head. Stop saying such stupid crap already. You will be a Marine and that's final. Luffy gulped and backed away when Garp pulled his fist back. This wasn't going to be his usual fists of love, no, this was somehow worse. It was his fists of fury. Gramps Y, X. After who knows how much time, Luffy was beaten completely black and blue. Puffy lips, a black eye, and large bumps decorating his entire body, mainly his head. He was once again being dragged along the floor by Garp who was picking his nose with his other hand. "GHPs, whar ah, we goin'? Gramps, where are we going?" Luffy asked through his puffed lips and looked around. It didn't seem like they were returning to Fuchsia, as the area seemed like they were going deeper into the forest. He was tossed in front of Garp and landed with a thump. "You're going to stay here for a few weeks. Or a month. Gotta check back at the headquarters but I'll return to make sure you do your training." He grunted. Luffy looked around where exactly, here, was and saw no buildings, no people, just animals and forest. Oh wait, what? You're just gonna leave me here in a forest again? Luffy whipped his head towards Garp who was already leaving and giving a lazy half-hearted wave. "Yeah, you better be stronger when I come back," was all he said as his large figure disappeared behind the countless trees, leaving Luffy alone with a darkening sky, birds flying overhead. And a growling stomach. "But I haven't even eaten yet." He called out to no one, jaw to the ground. His stomach growled again, louder. Oh well, guess I'll find some food. Luffy shrugged off the fact he was just ditched in the forest by his grandfather for who knows how long. Let's see, mushrooms, bugs, berries, birds, whatever other animals are here, there's plenty to eat. Luffy grinned and picked up a large stick he found cool, beginning his adventure hunt for food. Sadly most of his prey escaped. But he managed to snag himself a pretty decently sized deer along with a few weird-looking mushrooms, which he tossed because they tasted funny. The sky had already changed from a warm orange to an almost complete black, lit up only by the twinkling stars. The only sound around him was the call of various bugs and his campfire that crackled quietly through the calm night. Having already finished his dinner that was sadly nowhere near as great as what Sanji would have cooked, Luffy plopped down on his back and closed his eyes, focusing in on the presences around him. It was blurry, not incredibly so. It wasn't as hazy compared to when he first learned observation haki, luckily. But it was enough to bother him. He could tell his haki hadn't gotten any worse, it was still there. But it felt like it was blocked, or clogged. How confusing. Is that how haki worked? Wait, how did it work again? Rayleigh used really confusing words during his explanation years ago, oh well. Maybe his haki just isn't used to the sudden change in his body. Isn't haki a mind thing though? Wonder if he could still use his conqueror's haki. Well, if his haki isn't used to the change, then he just has to practice it in his now body. Tomorrow though. For now, he'll sleep. X. 1511. M. 2. D. 22. Getting used to the fact he'll be stuck in the forest for a while didn't really bother Luffy. He grew up in one after all. And, well, this isn't the first time Garp left him in a forest as a kid. Too bad this wasn't Mt. Corvo, which he was much more familiar with. He quickly finished his much-to-be-desired breakfast and began his training. He spent a good chunk of time just covering and uncovering his arms and legs in hockey the past few days. It had already been a bit over half a month since he woke up in the past, weaker than ever before. But thanks to Garp's hell training, Luffy had gotten a bit stronger. Before, when he tried to kick or punch a tree, he only hurt himself. Now he could make a small indent. It still did hurt though. The indent got a bit bigger if he used armament hockey, but not by much sadly. Not to mention, even his armament hockey was having some troubles. He had to focus harder than usual to get it to work, and unless he focused really hard, it would only be strong enough to maybe block a blade from an inexperienced no-name. He certainly couldn't block the sword or blow of someone strong unless he really focused to use it. So even that was delayed, huh? But at least he's getting stronger. And he'll only keep getting stronger and stronger until he's super strong. Just like before, but even stronger. Becoming that strong will probably take a bit more than just a few years, but luckily he has more time now. And he won't waste that chance. He honestly hated Garp's training, but it really did help in the short time since he started. More importantly, since he wasn't in Mt. Corvo, he did some exploring in between breaks of his training during his time here. He found a big lake with lots of fish but no crocodiles, unfortunately. The trees and animals were pretty big, but nothing compared to some Grand Line ones. Luffy also found out that the forest stretched all the way to the ocean, so he decided to make it his favorite spot. The ocean was vast, yet calm. No storms or marines. No no-name pirates challenging them. No cannonballs or battle cries. No random sea monsters or sea kings appearing out of no-oh. Never mind. Luffy stared out from his spot where a giant eel-like sea king stood above the water. Its eyes weren't red and it seemed to be minding its own business elsewhere, so it obviously wasn't angry and probably also hasn't even noticed Luffy. A sea king, huh? I wanna eat it, Luffy decided. He pulled his arm back and aimed towards the beast, pistol. He threw the punch but only stumbled forward and punched the air. Oh right, not rubber. Well, if he can't eat it, then. Ooey, you, Sea King, let's be friends. The Sea King turned around to look where all the noise was coming from. Luffy. Let's talk. I'm bored. Luffy waved to further gain attention, but the beast merely stared at Luffy from afar. Come on, there's no one else to talk to here, let's be friends. Now he was jumping up and still attempted to get the beast come over. A beast that could easily eat him in a snap. A snap of its jaws that is. Said beast eyed Luffy a few moments before slowly swimming over. It got as close to shore that it could with its large body and lowered its head to be eye level with Luffy. Then let out a roar so loud that the branches of the trees around Luffy were pushed back. The beast leveled a deadly glare and snarl, countless rows of razor-sharp teeth on full display. However, Luffy didn't falter. No, he was grinning. I get it now, alright then. He looked the beast straight in the eye without a drop of fear. A challenge, huh? Luffy focused in on his own presence. His strength. Hardening his gaze, he sends out a wave of Conqueror's Haki, giving out the message that he was up for a challenge. The beast flinched and backed up ever so slightly, eyes not moving away from the boy. It visibly swallowed and backed up more from the boy who still stood tall and confident. Luffy grinned. So, wanna talk now? The beast seemed to be trying to figure Luffy it and what exactly to do when. You speak as if you could hear me. I can. Gramps ditched me here and it's so boring here all by myself. Luffy plopped himself down crisscross on the ground with no guard up whatsoever. Quote. I may not have seen as much as others of my kind, but I have not heard of a human hearing our voice. She, really? Luffy snickered but then stared at the eel-like Sea King. Hey, ya know, you look kinda familiar, brought a hand to his chin and hummed. Then it hit him. Ah, you're that jerk who ate Shanks' arm off. Luffy bolted up to point an accusing finger at the beast whose head tilted. Shanks, I don't know of such a human. Red hair, scars on the eye, super cool pirate and, oh now that I think, since it happened in the future it hasn't actually happened yet. Hey, don't bite his arm off in the future alright. The beast Q grinned and made a chuffing sound akin to laughter. No promises. Luffy puffed up his cheek, less than usual with his non-rubber cheeks, jerk. Oh well, I bet Shanks could easily beat you up. It was my fault he lost it in the first place. Ho, so this human is that strong. And what is this about the future? Future. Dunno what you're talking about, nope. Nah. He sweats and looks off, but quickly pops back up, but anyways. Yeah, Shanks is super strong. He can chop things like swoosh. And bam. Sometimes he can go like Don and cut everything up. It's super cool. Well, Zoro and Taro are cool while chopping things up too. By the way, you're pretty small for a Sea King compared to the ones in the Grand Line. He babbles on. You've been to what you humans call the Grand Line. Yeah, you know I saw a huge Sea Kings once when we entered the New World. They were big enough to easily chomp our entire ship whole. And then, x 1511 m2 d 23. Far, far away, a little boy curls up in the corner of his cold and neglected jail cell. He sniffled and buries his head into his knees, the large metal helmet preventing him from wiping his tears away. He clutches his right arm, which is bruised and bleeding with injuries. Still crying to himself, a door opens and in walks another person. The boy stills. He holds his breath as footsteps draw closer, echoing off the crumbling stone walls. He tries to crawl back. To run away. To hide. Not that there is anywhere to hide anyways. But still, he was afraid. He didn't want any more injuries. It hurt. It was scary. He couldn't fight back because he was so weak. All he could do was cry and wait for them to stop. Got beat up again. Yet you're doing nothing but crying, Sanji. The boy lit up, scrambling to the edge of the bars with a relieved smile. Reiju. Chapter 4, Waking Up in Hell. It's not over yet. 1511. M2. D. 23. Reiju. Sanji beamed and bounced on his heels, until he was reminded of his bruised and beaten ankles the hard way. Reiju didn't react as he fell down with a hiss, rubbing his injuries with a wet sniffle. What are you doing, getting so happy? It's not like you're ever getting out of there, you know. Reiju placed her hand on her hip, looking down at the curled up boy. Said boy let out a weak giggle, and despite the iron helmet covering his face, Reiju could tell Sanji was smiling. But, I'm still happy to see you. You don't beat me up like our brothers do. Stop saying stupid things and sit down. So I can treat you, went unsaid, but Sanji understood anyways. He let out another giggle and sat down near the bars, staying still as Reiju smeared ointment and carefully wrapped bandages around it. She even brought a damp rag, which she used to clean up the blood and grime on him. Reiju stayed silent throughout the treatment, but Sanji softly hummed, obviously giddy. By the end of it, instead of being covered in black and blue bruises and cuts, he was covered in bandages and band-aids. Sanji smiled at how gentle and careful the bandages were all tied. Don't you get tired of getting beaten all the time? Reiju sighed, and immediately, Sanji's smile fell. Being the shitty crybaby, since Sanji was rather weak-willed at the time, he bit his lip and held back tears with a sniffle. Another sigh sounded from Reiju as she stood up and turned her back to him. Reiju. Well, whatever happens to you isn't my problem. You can get beaten up like always for all I care. CYA. Sanji uselessly held out his arm through the bars as Reiju left, once again leaving him alone. Suddenly feeling a chill, Sanji shivers and begins to scoot back into the corner of his cell, flinching when a drop of water lands on his shoulder. He looks up to see water dripping from a small leak, surrounded by shitty moss. Despite the fear and loneliness he was previously feeling mere seconds ago, he's instead filled with annoyance. Scowling, he clicks his tongue and grumbles. Damn mosshead. Mosshead. Sanji jolts as a mind-numbing headache overtakes him. Nails dig into his arms, drawing blood, and soon he collapses onto the ground with a loud clang from metal meeting stone. Screams try to claw their way out of his throat, but only comes out as a dying groan. Clawing and grasping at his helmet, screams finally leave him while attempting and failing to tear off the helmet. It hurts, but not as much as a certain shitty geezer's kicks. Sanji lets out a long exhale, body slacking as the pain gradually leaves him. His hands fumble into his pockets in search of an item that was never there, and instead clicks his tongue in frustration when he's reminded of that fact. He gives up and instead sprawls across the cold stone floor, staring up at the dark moss-covered ceiling. It wasn't too different than the filthy ground he was lying on. Another drop of water drips onto his helmet, slowly trickling off of it. He can't feel it, but gets annoyed all the same. Tisk. I can't believe the mosshead was the reason I remembered everything. I'm kicking his ass the moment I see him again. Sanji grumbles out through gritted teeth, lolling his head to the side and now staring at the rusty bars confining him. He grunts and looks back up, shutting his eyes and imagining a salty ocean breeze and the soft rocking of the sunny go. The peaceful scene changes from the cheerful laughter of the crew, to the panicked screaming of his captain. To the strong front that Luffy had so desperately kept up in order to not make everyone else lose hope, and how that same front crumbled and broke apart in their short times of refuge when he thought the others wouldn't see. Chopper, that despite being exhausted, worked his hardest to treat whoever was left. Until he could no longer be there to continue doing so. He could still hear the countless gunshots and screaming. And the promise they all made together, but failed to. Another drop of water snapped Sanji's eyes open, the scene disappearing in an instant. His bruises and cuts stung, but it was nothing. Nothing compared to what he went through during that time. This place is as shitty as I remembered it to be, huh? He lets out another loud exhale, wishing for a cigarette to smoke and nicotine to fill his lungs to calm him. Because plain old oxygen certainly isn't doing the trick. Now then, Sanji says, grazing his fingers along his helmet, how the hell did this happen? X. 1511. M. 2. D. 26. Maybe, flap flap flap. I shouldn't, CAAWW, try to fight monsters when I don't have my fruit, or enough control over my hockey. Luffy pants, running through the forest as fast as his little legs could take him, constantly craning his neck back to see the giant angry bird currently chasing him. He stumbles over a tree root, but catches himself before the bird catches him. Luffy turns around to throw a punch but remembers again midway that he couldn't stretch. So instead, he yelps and ducks away from stone-crushing talons, taking off in a mad sprint once again. He makes a sharp turn and dives into some bushes, crouching and holding his breath. The bird flies overhead before circling the area around and landing nearby. It looks around, and squints at the bush Luffy's hiding in, making Luffy still further. Oh, he gulps. But luckily, the bird takes flight again and flies off, leaving Luffy alone. Luffy cuts off his own sigh of relief with a hand over his mouth. Quietly, he whispers to himself, crawling out of the bush. Tiptoeing away, Luffy leaves the area while glancing around for the bird, which so happens to be standing in front of him. He purses his lips, staring up at the bird whose beak seems to glint menacingly. It slowly spreads its wings open, and Luffy takes off running. Yeah, I'm sorry. He screams at the top of his lungs, covering his ears as a loud caw sounds from the bird. Sensing talons aimed for the back of his head, Luffy quickly ducks again just in time for said talons to fly over him and crash into stone, crushing it. That was close. He sweats, continuing his escape. Before Luffy knew it, he begun to make his way to his favorite spot. There was a large eel-like creature resting its chin on the ground, the other half of its body in the water. It was seemingly asleep, or sunbathing, on the beach. The creature, or more like monster, cracks an eye open and looks up. Keying. Luffy begins waving madly as starts running towards it. The giant bird previously chasing him screeched and hightailed it away the moment the monster turned its gaze towards it. Out of breath, Luffy's pace slows and ends up only trotting towards the beast, panting and falling back onto the sand. What did you piss off this time? Hey King, I thought I could get some meat for dinner, but I forgot I don't have my fruit again. Or good enough control on my hockey to knock out something like that. Luffy pouted childishly, fitting for his current body. With a little hup, Luffy sits up criss-cross and turning to face King, the name he had given the Sea King, which he honestly thought was a great name. King makes a short chuckle. Perhaps don't bite off more than you can chew. Luffy frowned, crossing his arms. It's not fair for an East Blue Sea King who tried to eat a Yonko to say that. King makes a sound resembling a snort. Hasn't happened yet, so it is fair. HMPH. Luffy continues to pout, until his stomach growls loudly. Swaying, Luffy falls back again and covers his stomach, face scrunching up. Hungry, I'm tired of frogs and weird mushrooms already. And bugs. Luffy nodded, then yelps as a strong pinching sensation spikes on his finger. He quickly brings it up to his face to see a crab dangling off of it, and Luffy forcefully pulls it off before staring at it helplessly dangle and try to pinch him again. Luffy stands up, turns the crab upside down, and hardens his knee with armament hockey, kneeing full force into the poor crab. It makes a loud crack, and Luffy frowns as gross mushy meat dirties his hands. He shakes it off before breaking off the legs with a huff. Yosh, dinner. Seems like a rather unsatisfying dinner. Well, I have no choice. Sanji's not here to cook for me. Luffy huffs again. I miss his cooking. I want meat. He sulks, gathering twigs he deemed suitable for making a fire. King huffed, watching Luffy stab sticks through the crab legs and struggle to start the fire. Why not fish? You're surrounded by water. Can't swim, never could, even before I got my fruit. I was real determined to learn back then though so I could impress Shanks. But I ended up eating the fruit right after that. I miss being rubber. Luffy lit up when his fire started, and he hummed a stupid tune watching the legs cook. Drooling and bouncing, Luffy was somehow hoping for them to somehow cook faster. You've mentioned these devil fruits before, claiming you were a user of one on multiple occasions. But I've never seen anything resembling them before, not that I've been in many other places beside here. Not to mention, I've never met a human who could understand me either, until we met. I can understand you Kaza, the voice of all things, or whatever. It used to hurt my head sometimes, but you're not loud or all that strong, so I'm good. Luffy snaps a leg in half, chewing on the meat inside with a small frown. It wasn't enough meat. Boy did Luffy wish Sanji was here right now. Was that an insult? King seems to smirk, his many countless fangs being shown off as he stands up straighter to tower over Luffy. I can easily eat you right now if I wanted to. And if I'm weak, what does that make you? Luffy swallows. Not from fear, but literally just to eat. Really weak. He says, reaching for the other leg, it's kinda a shame that all my strength from my training is gone now, but I don't think it went to waste. Besides, if losing all my strength and throwing me back to the beginning means I get to see my Nakama alive again, then that's fine. Again with your Nakama. You said you're almost likely scattered up, but do you even have the slightest hint on where they're at? Barely. Munch 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 munch. Well, I have a general idea where some are, or will be in the near future. I'm gonna have some problems finding them. Stuff like this normally requires a plan, and I'm no good at those. Plans are for smart people like Robin or Turao. Tiger. Tora. No, Turao. Munch munch munch. Gulp, my husband. X. 1511. M. 3. D. 2. Happy 8th birthday, failure. Niji, the shitty blue-haired bastard taunted, an annoyingly haughty smirk plastered on his face. What's wrong? Gonna cry. Yanji, despite being younger than Sanji was, added. Ichiji was there as well, standing tall with his nose up in the air as if looking on Sani. But Sanji was no more than slightly irked, being far too used to this already. Instead of snapping, he calmly ate the food that was served to him at the usual time, a guard standing outside the cell to lock the helmet once he was done. Niji and Yanji weren't too happy with being ignored, not that Sanji cared in the least. Niji kicked the bars, snarling. Don't ignore us. He barked, bars denting slightly from his superhuman strength. Sanji sighs, and turns to Niji saying, so annoying, don't you have something better to do besides mess with me? Or do you just have that much free time, huh, big brother? The last part was on purpose, and it definitely seemed to have done its job at pissing Niji off. Niji growled, bars twisting under his grip. Where the hell did you pull that confidence from, failure? Sanji takes another bite of his food, ignoring Niji's death glare. I wonder. He shrugs, uncaring. Oi, Ichiji turns to the guard, finally speaking, open the gate. Yes sir. The guard automatically replies, both lifeless and emotionless like the robot they were created to be. The gate slowly creaks open and Sanji's three brothers walk in, cracking their knuckles to seem imitating. It didn't work. Did you finally go insane being locked in here? Niji places his hands on his hips, and bends down to Sanji who was sitting on the floor. Sanji doesn't reply, so Niji kicks the little wooden table Sanji was eating on, sending the rest of his food flying. I said, don't ignore us. Niji repeats, grabbing Sanji by his collar and lifting him up. Sanji swallows his food, the last of his food, and stares at Niji. Do you know how much effort the cooks went to make that? The time and dedication it took. And how much a starving man would kill for that meal? Niji raises a brow, squinting at Sanji. Ah, what the hell are you saying? He lifts Sanji up further, but Sanji shows no resistance. The only movement he makes is slowly raising his arm, wrapping his hand around Niji's wrist. I'm saying, Sanji tightens his grip full force, glare strong enough to kill a man, don't waste food, you shitty lightning rod bastard. Niji snaps, kneeing Sanji with enough force to break the ribs of a normal man. Good thing Sanji practiced armament hockey the most he could, expecting to use it for this. He couldn't use it much more than for defense in small areas at the moment though, so Sanji could only grit his teeth and let himself get thrown against the stone walls of his confinement. The beating issued, but Sanji didn't let out a single cry, or even a grunt, of pain. His brothers punched, kicked, and threw him until they grew bored. They spat in his direction before leaving with a click of their tongue, Ichiji and Niji both calling Sanji a failure on the way out. Sanji still made no response, even after the guard locked his helmet and the gate slammed close. Alone again, huh? Well, except for, I see you didn't cry when they beat you up this time. Any reason for the sudden change in personality? Finally decided to stop crying so much. Reiju says, crossing her arms. Sanji could already feel the smile tug at his lips. As if their shitty attacks could make me cry. Sanji scoffs, adding, I know a shitty old geezer who can kick harder than they could ever hope to achieve. That's so. Reiju says, obviously not believing him, you happy to turn older? She asks, changing the subject. Not really. Stopped caring about that years ago. Sanji sits up with a grunt, popping his neck the best he could with the limited flexibility given to him from his helmet. Look at you, sounding all tough. Reiju sighs out, hands now on hips, what's up with you recently? I don't really care if you've snapped or something, but it's weird to hear so suddenly. Sanji shrugged. Maybe being locked up in this shitty place makes you age faster. I feel like I'm in my 20s. Geezer. Sanji flinched and clenched his jaw, biting back a response. Yeah, that hurt worse than the beating. Anyways, making fun of you isn't what I came here to do. Oh yeah, happy 20th whatever birthday, since you're apparently not 8 anymore. Reiju scoffed, turning to leave. Thanks. Sanji called out to her, she didn't reply, nor turn around. She only walked away, heels tapping and echoing off the stone walls. I mean it, Sanji called out louder, walking up to the bars and grabbing them, thanks. He repeated. Don't get the wrong idea, Reiju started, still not turning, this doesn't mean I'm on your side. Her voice was cold, harsh almost. But even so, Sanji smiled. I know. He replied, softly. Reiju stood still for a few moments but never turned around. Then, as if she said nothing at all, she went on her way and left, leaving Sanji alone again. Even though Sanji was alone, his smile didn't disappear. He lied back down against the dirty stone floor, fiddling in his pockets for a non-existent cigarette. I know that you're lying, that's why I'm so thankful. It would have been worse for past me if you didn't. Chapter 5. I'm strong. I won't give up until I win. 1511. M3. D. Whoop. She. Luffy makes a sidestep to avoid the dive of an angry fox he's attempting to hunt. Planting his foot firmly on the ground, Luffy grips the makeshift staff that's really just a tree branch and covers it in haki, grinning. Too slow. He whacks the poor animal midair, sending it flying and smacking onto a nearby tree. Luffy snickers when it stays down. Alright, I got dinner. He cheers, thwacking the branch in his hand with a hum. Punching is more fun but I don't got my fruit yet. I hate having to do Gramps training when he's not even here, but there's no choice if I wanna get stronger, man. I wish there was an iron pipe around here somewhere instead. Luffy mutters on, dragging the dead animal behind him. Oh, or alligator. Too bad there ain't any here, I'm really craving some different meat. But I used to always get eaten by them back then and Sabo and Ace would. Luffy stops, turning towards the direction of MT. Corvo, Sabo and Ace. I wonder if they're still there. The staff shuffles around awkwardly on his shoulder. They should be, right. It's the past so Ace should still be alive, but they probably don't remember him and Luffy can't cross those huge mountains the way he is now. This sucks. Maybe I'll ask Gramps to take me there whenever he comes back. Now that I think about it, how long ago did he leave? He blinks for a few moments, thinking and clinking his head side to side. Luffy's head gradually turns red, steam coming from his ears before he shrugs with an, oh well. The walk back to camp was quiet. Even more so when he found that King wasn't there. Maybe he was sleeping or swimming around elsewhere. Luffy really, and he means really, wanted to try riding on King's head. But the big mean fish wouldn't let him. Said something along the lines of, maybe when you can actually beat me, until then, I refuse. Jerk. This place was so boring, he wanted something to do at least. He didn't have any of his friends and he couldn't see his brothers or future brothers, at least either. It wasn't really fun. Am I the only one who remembers? Luffy looked down for a few moments, reaching for his hat before remembering it wasn't there. Instead, he silently looks up at the calm east blue sky, a grin tugging at his lips. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Get strong enough to find everyone. His stomach growls, and Luffy immediately begins starting a fire. But first, food. X. 1511. M. 3. D. 14. Oi. A small green-haired boy by the name of Zoro banged on the doors of a dojo, smirking when the door slid open for him. Behind the door was a black-haired man wearing a gray yukata, the mark of 2 red swords over where the heart laid. They looked down on the little boy, tilting their head ever so slightly. May I help you? He asked, voice kind. Zoro. Not so kind. Yeah, I heard someone strong was here, strong enough to beat adults. I'm here to challenge them. Zoro haughtily replied, nose up in the air and not just to look up at the taller adult. The adult hummed, as if troubled by the other's demand. This is a dojo which practices the way of the sword. Are you a swordsman? He asked. Zoro frowned. Of course. Why else would he be here? Really, adults could be so stupid sometimes. Where are you from? Who's your teacher? The adult continued to ask, making Zoro's frown worsen. Adults could be both stupid and ask just as dumb questions, it seemed. None of this mattered, he just wanted a battle. None of your business. Zoro barked, is the strong person here or not? I'm here, a new voice says behind the adult, and Zoro watches as a girl steps forward. He examines her confident posture, along with the bamboo sword in her hand. Zoro felt his frown turn into a smirk. So you're the one. The name's Roronoa Zoro, I'm here to challenge you. The girl scoffed at his declaration. I heard you, you're a lot louder than you think. Also, why should I accept? There's nothing in it for me. She placed a hand on her hip, looking down on Zoro. That didn't make Zoro too pleased to know. He let out a growl, grin quickly reverting to a snarl. What? Don't be a coward. I don't have anything to give either, all I have are my swords. Zoro retorted, and it was true. He was dirt broke, not a berry on him. He didn't even left his swords behind, which was totally on purpose by the way, so all he had was the ratty and dirtied clothes on his back. I don't want money, nor your swords. I'm just saying I have no reason to accept your challenge. She replied. Huffing, Zoro crossed his arms and refused to give in. If Zoro was anything, he was stubborn. And he has yet to meet someone who could beat him in that. Sweet sweet ignorance. HMPH. Then, if I can beat someone from this dojo, will you accept my challenge then? It could be an adult for all I care. Let's say you get to fight against me, what will you do if you lose? Huh, if I lose? Zoro stopped to think about it. He hadn't considered the possibility of him losing. But he supposed it wouldn't hurt to think about it. I'll become a student here. Honestly, he'd prefer not to do that. But it shouldn't be a problem, since he won't lose. He's strong, and he's only going to become even stronger. Beating this supposed strong person was just another stepping stone for his goal. In what way does that benefit? Sure, the older man said, cutting off the blue-haired girl, having another student couldn't hurt. Especially if they're already knowledgeable in swordsmanship and as determined as you are. Of course I'm determined. I'm gonna become the world's greatest swordsman. Zoro said, confidently straightening his posture and jamming his thumb to point towards himself. He heard the girl laugh, making his eye twitch. What's so funny? He growled. As if someone as puny as you could become the world's greatest swordsman. The girl turned around with a HMPH. That made Zoro's blood boil. What did you? Now, please calm down. The older man tried to calm him. Are you willing to try a spar against one of my students? I'm sure Kuina will accept your challenge if you win. Kuina. Zoro looked up. That's her name, Kuina. And I'm Koshiro, both Kuina's father and head of this dojo. Zoro had thought the name rung a bell somehow, but nothing came up. So he ignored the feeling, supposing he just heard it somewhere around the area. Huh, you sure don't look like a master swordsman. Koshiro chuckled, unminding of Zoro's rude remark. Hey old guy, is that Kuina girl really that strong? Zoro continued, following Koshiro who was now leading him inside. Kuina is able to defeat most adults without a problem. Koshiro replies smoothly, not missing a beat. Almost like a scripted line he had prepared for questions like Zoro's. At the time though, he didn't really notice that. So that means she's strong, right? That's perfect. Zoro smirks to himself, clenching his fists in excitement. He hears Koshiro chuckle again, but ignores it as they enter a large room filled with various students sitting on their knees, politely greeting Koshiro when they see him. Zoro makes himself seem taller, stronger. We have someone who wishes to challenge Kuina, but before that, he needs to beat someone here. Do we have any volunteers? A small bowl-cut-haired boy raised his hand, standing up and jutting his chin out. He went up to Zoro with an odd almost waddle-like walk and crossed arms, probably in some pitiful attempt to look threatening. Hua, the boy drawls out in a fake low voice, a challenger. I'll take him on, sensei. The boy forcefully shoves his forehead against Zoro's, in a way that's somehow annoyingly familiar, and Zoro snaps, now shoving back with more force and a growl. Calm down you two. Koshiro splutters, grabbing their shoulders and easing them apart. Zoro and the boy still glare and growl at each other though despite his best attempts to calm them. Zoro decides that he's going to completely destroy this brat in the spar. He glares at the kid the entire walk over to the bucket filled with bamboo swords. 2 swords are fine, right? Zoro says, reaching for 2. HMPH. So weak you got to rely on 2 instead of 1, huh? Zoro immediately throws a sword back in, glowering at the boy. I can take on a weakling like you with 1 sword no problem. Zoro gets into position with his 1 sword as the other does the same. Who are you calling a weakling you? Koshiro clapped loudly, stopping the two from continuing their argument. You two, stop fighting. The match will now issue, please get into your positions. He ordered. The boy replied with a respectful apology and Zoro merely grunted, but did as he was told regardless. Now then, begin. They both charged at each other, bamboo swords clashing. Zoro kept a firm grip on his sword. He may not be that good at the one-sword style, but it was more than enough for a weakling. Take this. Zoro practically roared, using all his force to make a horizontal slash towards his opponent's sword, smacking it right out of their grip. Zoro couldn't help his smirk as he watched their eyes widen, the room silencing, which only made the clatter of the fallen sword seem louder. Koshiro raised a single hand towards Zoro. Single blow. Match over. The winner is Zoro. The rooms filled with gasps as Zoro's opponent now stared at their empty hands in disbelief. Huh, I'm starting to wonder if this Kuina girl is really all that strong if it was that easy to win. Say that after you beat me. The girl, Kuina, says, stepping up to Zoro's view. Grinning, Zoro grips his sword, raising it and bringing it down, pointing it towards her. Challengingly. Finally ready to spar, he asks. Kuina says nothing as she walks to her spot with her sword, staring at Zoro. Although irritated to be ignored, Zoro grumbles and steps back into his spot, both of them now in position. The match between Kuina and Zoro will now start, please get into your positions. Koshiro repeats, turning to both of them. Not going to grab a second sword. Kuina seems to almost taunt, but Zoro scoffs. Don't need it. Unknowing to him, he was right. Because having a second or even third sword wouldn't have changed anything. Begin. Zoro charges at the unmoving Kuina, raising his sword high and ready to attack full force. This should be over quick, Zoro thought to himself. And, he wasn't wrong. With a loud clack, his sword was easily swatted like a mere fly. Single blow. Match over. The winner is Kuina. Koshiro declares right as Zoro's sword falls to the ground. Zoro takes a step back, staring at the bamboo sword that was once in his grip. No way, he mutters, jumping slightly when Kuina's sword breezes by him, tip pointed at his face. What? You're weaker than I thought. She scoffs, and Zoro's blood boils. Furious, he yells out. Rematch. Let me use two swords. Sure, it won't change anything. If only he knew then how right she was. Zoro storms over to pick up his fallen sword and grabs another, returning to his spot and once again getting into position with a near-death grip on his swords. Damn it, he's strong. He's going to become the world's greatest swordsman. He can't lose, he has to win. The rematch between Kuina and Zoro will now start. Please get into your positions. Begin. Zoro lets out another loud war cry and charges towards her like a mad bull. His first overhead slash is easily blocked, so he attempts to hit her with his other sword. However, Kuina merely shoves the sword she's blocking away, making Zoro tumble back, and takes a step backwards to dodge the second slash. She raises her own sword up high, and hits Zoro's head. Hard. Ow. Zoro drops both of his swords with a cry of pain. Single blow. Rematch over. The winner is Kuina. Zoro whips his head towards Koshiro in disbelief, then to his swords on the ground. He lost. With both swords. No matter how many swords a weakling uses, it won't change the end result. Kuina huffed, as if reading his mind. Zoro, knowing how pathetically he lost, could only grit his teeth. Damn it. Fine, I admit my defeat, but I'm the man who will become the world's greatest swordsman. So I'll keep training and defeat you. Kuina looked at him, saying nothing as her hard gaze met his. After a few moments, Kuina turned around and rested her sword on her shoulder. See if you can try. X. 1511. M. 3. D. 23. It's only been a little over a week but Zoro's gotten so strong. One boy mutters, barely heard by his friend beside him over the loud thwacking of bamboo swords. The friend beside him gulps and nods. Yeah, but, they start, right after a particularly loud thwack and a, gah. Follows. He still can't beat Kuina. He sighs, watching Zoro fall to his knees. One blow. That's enough, the winner is Kuina. Currently 34 wins for Kuina and 0 wins for Zoro. Damn it. Zoro throws his swords on the ground, why does she only seem to get stronger? He takes a few heavy breaths before gathering the swords and storming towards the exit. What? Throwing a fit? Kuina taunts after him. No. Going to train. He slams the door behind him. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Why can't he win? It wasn't supposed to be like this. He was supposed to be strong. That girl has it coming, I will beat her. I'm the man who will become the world's greatest swordsman. A voice, of someone somewhere whispering something, what, he could only guess, in the back of his head. But over his frustration, Zoro heard nothing. Just wait, I'll become stronger than her soon. To this, even now. Could he really? X. 1511. M. 3. D. 23. Same day. Luffy was dreaming. It was a nice dream. Everyone was there and happy. It was a party, filled with delicious food cooked by Sanji. There was lots of meat and Brook was playing music. Chopper and Usopp seemed to be having fun dancing together while Zoro drank enough to kill 20 men. Nami and Robin were relaxing as Sanji fawned over them, everyone else laughing and having a blast. Luffy liked the dream. Too bad he had to immediately wake up and jump away from his spot, sensing something somehow worse than killing intent. The ground he previously was sleeping on before cracked and shattered into countless pieces, crushed under the large fist that had smashed into it. Luffy froze when he saw the towering figure turn to him. "Oh, I'm surprised you managed to dodge that, Luffy," Garp said, straightening up and cracking his knuckles. "I was right about leaving you in this forest to get stronger after all." "Gramps, what are you doing here? You've been gone forever." Luffy all but yelps, already preparing himself for the guaranteed future fists of love ahead. "Forever? You're overreacting. It's only the 23 road. So I've only left you here for, well, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I've returned to see how strong you've become in our short time apart." Now then, Luffy, sensing the same danger as before, tried to escape. Unfortunately, Garp caught him before he could even try. "Let's begin." He was heaved up to eye level of a grinning Garp before being carelessly dropped down. He could see it. No, sense it. He could sense the way Garp was gonna punch. ... But being able to sense something and being able to dodge something were two entirely different things. "Gramps, I'll die. I'll really die if you keep hitting me this hard," Luffy sulked, being dragged back to where he was guessing Fuchsia. He wasn't happy, he was hungry and his sleep was disrupted. "HMPH. It's just proof that you need more training." "Well, yeah, but nothing. Remember, this is all to become a fine Marine. It's for your own good." Garp grumbled the last bit, grip tightening around Luffy's shirt. Luffy sighed, looking up and watching a bird fly by. Why would he join something that'll kill him the moment they find out who his dad is? And worse, order him around to control him. He wanted to be free, together, with his friends. Creating chaos along the way was just the cherry on top. "Cherries. I'm hungry. I swiped lots of food from the Navy, you can eat as much meat as you want. It's your reward for dodging my punch." "Really? Thanks, Gramps. X. Hey Gramps." Luffy spoke, pausing from his inhalation of food. It sucked not being rubber anymore. He could still eat lots, but not as much as he could with his rubber stomach. Nor could he fit a lot of food in his normal cheeks or reach for faraway food with his normal arms. Garp crunched through a bone, chewing on it alongside the meat. Luffy gulped down more food, grateful for meat other than tough fox meat or frogs. He had occasionally caught some deer, but it wasn't often. He turned to Garp once the last of the meat went down. "Why do you want us to become Marines?" Luffy cocked his head to the side, as Garp rose a brow. "Us," he quoted, throwing in another piece of meat. Luffy wished he could eat more too. "Me and Ace," Luffy explained. "Pa, you wouldn't understand." Garp waved a dismissive hand. "Your head is too filled with that stupid idea of becoming a pirate. Where did you learn such nonsense? It's not stupid. And Shanks did." Luffy jumped up to defend Shanks despite the discomfort in his stomach. He barely noticed Garp's eye twitch from Shanks' name being mentioned. "Shanks? That red-haired brat. How the hell do you know him?" "I haven't met him yet, but I promised him I'd become a great pirate." Or would it be, going to promise him? Phrasing things while time was weird as hard. "Pa." Garp scoffed again, how ridiculous. He tore into another large piece of meat and threw the bare bone into his mouth again. Well, Luffy had to pick up his bone-eating habits from someone. His mouth watered as he glanced at the oh-so-juicy meat, but his normal human stomach seemed to twist at the mere thought of more food. Man, not being rubber really sucked at times like this. He only got down 4 servings. Now that I think about it, how do you know about Ace?" Garp suddenly asked. Luffy paused, trying to go back years upon years. Okay, not that long but still a while back to when he first met Ace. If he remembered correctly, which he was pretty sure he did. "You introduced me to him," Luffy replied. Garp finished up the remainder of the food himself. "Oh, I see." Chapter 6, Set Sail. To find Tarao. 1511. M. 3. D. 26. Stop flailing around and let me beat you. Yanji snapped, grabbing Sanji's wrists in an attempt to pin him down. "As if I would let you, snothead." Sanji attempted to kick his chin, but only hurt his foot in the process. Damn artificial exoskeletons. Who are you calling snothead, you failure? Yanji's grip painfully grew stronger, making Sanji flinch. He forced himself not to show it, though. You shitty snot-haired onion-head brat. Despite using full force, Sanji couldn't free his precious wrists away. Damn it. If this little shit does anything to his hands or wrists, he's so dead. We were born on the same day. Yanji kicked him, but Sanji only stuck his tongue out. Blehhhh. I'm still older than you. So what? So you should show some respect. And let go of my wrists already. Like hell Yanji finally let go, but only to curl his arm back for a punch. Sanji bit his lip when the fist connected, refusing to let out a single sound of pain, even when he slammed head first against the stone wall. He heard Yanji snicker, and despite the black spots dancing along his vision, Sanji could still see that cocky look plastered all over Yanji's face. What's wrong? Gonna cry? Yanji sneered, nose up high. Sanji grit his teeth, pushing himself off the ground and gave him the bird. You wish your shitty attacks could make me cry. Sanji would never admit that hot tears had formed in the corner of his eyes. Damn weak body. He's taken way worse blows than this before. His body needs to man up already. TCH. Shitty failure. Shitty brat. Sanji scoffed when Yanji went after him. Well, at least it was only Yanji here, for whatever reason. Normally, Yanji and Niji only came along with Ichiji, following along with whatever he says like dogs trying to impress their owner. Maybe Yanji was just in a bad mood or something. Too bad Sanji wasn't strong enough yet to kick some sense into his head, if only he had regained his memories sooner. What was date again? The 25th? 26th? He'll ask a guard later. His thoughts were cut short as he crashed against the wall, failing to hold back a grunt. Being slow at activating Haki was annoying when he was so good at it before. Or later. Whatever. Where the fuck was Luffy anyways? He needs to find out what the hell his idiot captain pulled this time to cause all of this. Given up already? Yanji gave a kick that could never hope to compete with Zeph's. Wow, must feel real great kicking an already down kid, huh? Sanji clicked his tongue and didn't even bother turning to him. Shut up. I'm thinking. Later, Sanji only bothered to curl up in order to protect his hands. He wouldn't let someone like Yanji injure them. The bruises he was getting elsewhere at the moment will heal later. And here I thought you matured. What happened, 20-year-old geezer-san? Reiju asked Sanji, who was on all fours and punching the ground with inaudible grumbles. Shut up. I'm angry at myself. Why the hell don't I have control over my own emotions? Damn it. Rolling over to his back, Sanji gives the ground one last punch, but not a hard one. He can't damage his hands after all. I need a cigarette. Reiju rose a brow. Since when did you smoke? Since I was 10 or something. You're 8. Sanji clicks his tongue. What a pain. Same thing. He grunts. Reiju sighs, probably giving up on questioning him. Good. Reiju did nothing wrong, but damn it, he's mad right now. Smoking at such a young age can't be good for you. She drawls out sarcastically. And just as sarcastic, Sanji rolls his eyes in reply and says, neither can daily beatings. He grunts out, sitting up and popping his neck. Although it was difficult with the helmet, wonder why the hell Yanji only came by himself, he mumbled. Yanji messed up on one of the training tasks and failed it. He was the only one to fail and got a scolding from father. Sanji clicked his tongue. So he just used me for stress relief, huh? That shitty brat. Born same day. Reiju pointed out, further irritating Sanji. She really wasn't helping him calm down. Shut up. X. 1511. M. 4. D. 1. Gramps. Luffy hopped, tugging on Garp's shirt to get his attention. Huh. Blinking, Garp turns to look down at Luffy. Luffy had just finished his training for now, and was bidding his passing time by training with the iron pipe he had asked Garp to give him a while back. And just like Luffy had guessed, it was really the only weapon he could somewhat use. He'd still prefer his devil fruit over an iron pipe any day though. But that's not what's important right now. How can I fight something way bigger than me? Luffy asked. Without missing a beat, Garp replied. Punch them. Luffy huffed. He was asking this cause he couldn't. At least, not hard enough. I used to inflate real big, or just punch real hard. But I can't do either right now. I can use Haki, but that's not enough. Luffy watched as Garp hummed, scratching his chin and looking Luffy up and down. Depends on who and what exactly you're fighting, and what you're using to fight with. Garp's gaze turned to the iron pipe Luffy was holding. I'm assuming you're going to use that as a weapon. Luffy held up the pipe in response. Yeah, Sabo taught me a few tricks a long time ago. I still remember a few. Have to make do until I have my fruit. And I'm gonna fight a Sea King. Luffy chirped all too cheerfully. A Sea King. Garp's brows furrowed. The small eel won by the shore. He's not as big as other sea kings, but he's still big compared to me. I just want to beat him up though, not kill him. He explained, watching Garp's face light up in recognition. Oh right, I forgot about that thing. Fight but not kill, huh? Fighting that will be difficult for you at the moment. Garp bent down and picked up a confused Luffy by the collar, so you just need more training. Luffy's face fell. Training was good but normal training against monkeys isn't what he wanted right now. Don't complain. I'll teach you some ways you could fight it that won't take much plannings and more instinct. Plans are a pain. Garp picked his nose as he dragged a now beaming Luffy behind him. No confusing plans. Perfect. Thanks Gramps. Love you. Luffy could see the grin stretching across Garp's face, even from the angle he was in. Yeah, yup, listen. Garp yelled through a mouthful of meat, to be prepared for any and all unexpected battles, you need to eat as much as you can whenever you have the chance. He said, now shoving an odd fruit in his mouth. Garp always told him and Ace this, and Luffy always followed it. And so did Ace, at least as a child. As Luffy ate at a speed competing with Garp, a previously faded memory resurfaced. It was of Garp and Luffy doing the exact same thing as they currently were, except Ace was there. Luffy almost fought off a hand that wasn't there, nearly slipping back into all the times they fought over food. Luffy waited for the line he just knew would come next. This is important for being a Navy soldier, remember that. There it was. A smile tugged at Luffy's lips, so wide it actually hurt. Then, in place of Ace who wasn't there, Luffy said. If first became a marine soldier, I'd eat the whole food stock of the ship within a day. And just as he did before, Garp let out that same hearty laugh. Biwahaha. You'd be more troublesome than the pirates. Luffy couldn't help but snicker in agreement. Luffy walked backwards as he dragged his pipe, making a little trail as he followed Garp back to Makino's bar. He was humming an off-key song, content with how the day went. He got some decent training down and shore. He was a little bruised up from Garp's training, but it was nothing he can't handle. As long as it's not his fists of love, Luffy can take the usual damage from the insane activities Garp calls training. He looked up and watched a bird fly by. It looked eerily familiar to the one that attacked him a while ago. Hopefully it doesn't notice him. Oh good, it went away. Phew. Relaxed again, Luffy continues his song. Until he halts for just a second. It's Usopp's birthday. He realized. Chan. Who? Garp turned around as he continued his walk. Luffy followed suit. A friend. Man, this sucks. Everyone's all scattered up so we can't celebrate anyone's birthday together. Luffy huffs in frustration, until his frown quickly morphs into a smile. Well, I guess we just gotta have a huge party when everyone gets together again, to make up for everything. Then Luffy pales. Bird. He yelps, raising his pipe as the same giant bird from earlier comes diving towards him, its sharp beak reflecting off sunlight like a blade. Quickly swinging his pipe down, the bird falls, a bump forming on its head. Luffy sighs, watching the sprawled-out bird lie motionless on the ground. Luffy thought he was in the safe, until it suddenly jumped up with a loud shrill, wings now spread and feathers puffed out in sheer fury. Luffy was about to run, or scream, or most likely both. Until he remembered something. He has better control over his haki. And he has an iron pipe. So unlike before, he can fight now. Alright. What's this? Dinner. The bird freezes, looking up in a slow, almost robotic motion, sweating when its eyes met Garp's. It takes a step back, then two. Garp only takes half a step forward, but the immediately bird flies away with a choked-out squawk. It crashes into a few trees from its rushed takeoff, but it doesn't stop. Nor does it turn around. I was gonna fight it. Luffy pouts, shoulders slumping in disappointment. It can't be much of a fight if it runs off without one. Garp grunts. Nah. Gramps is just scary, I'd run too. Garp let out a laugh, not at all offended. Instead, he just scooped Luffy up and slung him over his shoulder. Alright, let's go, Makino is waiting. He said. Luffy reached over at Garp's other shoulder. He had to curve a bit awkwardly, but he managed to reach it. Crawling over with one hand on Garp's head, Luffy managed to sit on Garp's shoulders, tiny legs barely wrapped around his broad neck. He felt taller like this, and stronger, like he was riding a big tiger or something, except Garp was stronger than any tiger could be. So raising his pipe up high, Luffy cheered atop Garp's shoulders. To Makino's place. X. 1511. M. 4. D. 2. Luffy stretched out with a loud yawn, jaw popping in the process. He rubbed his eyes and blearily blinked his sleep away, kicking his blanket off and dragging himself downstairs, with only the smell of food driving him. Waddling over to the stool, the scent of eggs and plenty of bacon fills his nostrils. Drool formed in his mouth as he attempted to crawl up the stool. He settled for hopping up it when he almost fell back. "Oh, good morning, Luffy. Up already?" Makino greeted, serving Luffy a plate full of bacon and eggs, mostly bacon, which immediately woke him up. Luffy quickly snatched the fork to begin eating. "Yeah, mornin'," he greeted, proceeding to wolf down the food. There was an itch at the back of his mind, like something he was supposed to know or remember, but couldn't. How annoying, he just wanted to enjoy his food right now. It had something to do with a bird or something. Maybe that big bird that keeps chasing him. Or a bird he feels like eating. Bird sounds nice, right? Oh. Luffy choked on his food, and Makino kindly offered his milk mug, which Luffy gratefully accepted and downed to the last drop. "Are you alright? You shouldn't eat so quick. I forgot about Bird Guy," Luffy exclaimed, slamming the mug down. Makino blinked. "Bird Guy, I almost forgot. I need to save him, but I have no ship. What do I do and do I do?" Luffy dug his fingers into his hair, clutching it. If this is really the same past as before, then everything happens again. But all he knows is island names and the ocean which it happens in. Nami jammed some basic map reading skills into him, but he's no navigator. Plus the no ship part. Oh wait. That's right, King, Luffy gasped, ignoring Makino's confused gaze. But King said he'll only let him ride him if he beats him, he'll just have to do it. There's no choice. Now determined, Luffy puts the remainder of his food in his mouth and bows. "Thank you for the food." With that said, Luffy jumped off the stool and ran upstairs to grab his pipe, simply jumping off the staircase rather than actually using it. "CYA. I'll be gone for a while, a few days, maybe a week or two. Anyways, gotta go. Bye." He hears something, probably a question, but he ran out of the bar far too fast to catch it. Well, hopefully it wasn't too important. Luffy was determined to make it to the forest and find King as soon as possible, until Gyoru called out to him. "Yo, Luffy, what got you in such a hurry? Garp chasing ya again?" Luffy skidded to a halt, reaching to hold down his hat by habit. He settled for pushing the hair out of his face instead, considering he didn't have his hat yet. "Nope, luckily. I actually haven't seen him today. Did Gramps leave already?" Luffy asked, cocking his head to the side. "Who knows? That man comes and goes as he pleases. But anywho, if Garp ain't chasing ya, what's the hurry?" Gyoru asked, propping his chin on his palm with a grin. "I had to hurry and leave to rescue the Not Mingo." Luffy paused, eyeing the fish hanging out on display. Gyoru noticed this and perked up. "What? Hungry?" Luffy hummed, thinking. Yeah, he could eat if he wanted to, but time was short, especially because he doesn't know the exact date things happen. Plus something was bothering him, and it felt like the all too familiar voice of Nami was yelling at him for something. To remember something before leaving. But what? Oh, I need provisions, he realized. While the East Blue is certainly no grand line and rather simple to sail in, it's not like he has the East Blue burned into the back of his hand. Wait, or was the saying supposed to be back of his head? Both. Either way, maybe Nami did. A burn sounds painful though, hopefully Nami didn't actually burn it into the back of her head or hand, he's getting sidetracked. Provisions. Gyoru rose a brow before pausing, then laughing, "You ain't thinking of sneaking off and setting sail on your own, are you?" "Gay, wait, hold on, he can do this. I'm not setting sail, I don't even have a ship." Good. He did it. He still can't lie, but he can avoid the truth by telling the truth. Avoiding the lie. Or was he avoiding the truth? Luffy frowned as his head began to hurt. This was confusing. Oh, really? The man stepped back and crossed his arms, seemingly believing Luffy. Most likely because he knew Luffy couldn't lie to save his life. And, well, he wasn't wrong. "So what you need provisions for?" "Training. I'm gonna be gone for a while, and I need food." "Gone? Yeah, I'm gonna go visit and pick up a friend." Luffy made a little hop, fist and pipe raised into the air. And for whatever reason, Gyoru laughed. I see. Have fun on your adventure. Make sure to take lots." With one last hearty laugh, the man turned around and tossed a small crate near Luffy, whatever contents inside hitting against the wood. "Take that. Leftover fruits, on the house. You can carry that, yeah. With all that training that Garp makes you do." Luffy beamed, bolting over to the crate and nearly tearing the lid off. He quickly scurried through and examined the contents. Apples, pears, and even some oranges were inside. A few were slightly bruised, but no matter, they were edible and free. "Yeah, thanks fish awesome," Luffy thanked, easily lifting the crate above his head and taking off, snickering when he heard "It's Gyoru" fade away in the wind, replaced with a gleeful shishishi. The crate hardly slowed his speed, and he made it to where he first met King in no time. King wasn't there, but that wasn't a problem, he'd be near. So, Luffy took a deep breath and yelled, Ki-I-I-I-I-I-I-I-I-I-I-N-G. Birds fluttered away and small animals scattered. The ocean remained calm, small waves lapping at the rocks, curved from the constant force of the ocean. Luffy waited, and the ocean stilled. Then split. As if a volcano or bomb exploded, the water bursted up and sprayed salty mist into the sky. A grin stretched across Luffy's face, scratching from ear to the ear. It was not a happy or playful grin, there was no shishishi or yo. Nor a good-natured wave. It was the one he wore in battle. Luffy threw the crate to the side, out of harm's way, and cracked his knuckles, looking up at the large Sea King looking down on him. It doesn't look like you called me for a friendly conversation. Luffy's grin stretched impossibly further, it hurt his non-rubber face, but no matter. Yeah, he nodded, picking up his pipe and giving it a twirl. I have somewhere I need to go, and I have no ship. You're my only option, but you said I'd have to beat you to earn the privilege of riding you, right? I see. So that's what you've called me over for. The beast seemed to make something akin to a grin, sharp, jagged fangs fully on display. It was a sight that would send any man who wasn't used to the dangers of the Grand Line weak to their knees and running for their lives. Luffy only got into position. Don't blame me when you die, I won't hold back. With an open jaw, King dashed forward like a bullet, aiming straight for the small figure of Luffy. It seems he wasn't lying about not holding back. That's exactly what. With a quick sidestep, Luffy dodged and whacked King's head with a hockey-coated iron pipe. I wanted to hear. King let out a grunt and backed away, before curling back his neck and snarling. Listen, Luffy. Garp's voice rung into Luffy's head, you have two options. 1. You can jump up from the start and ride it. Or, you can surprise it later by doing the same thing. You're both at an advantage and disadvantage. King's neck uncircled in a burst, his head becoming a blur towards Luffy. Luffy didn't jump, but instead, raised his pipe and smacked it down on top of King's head with just the right timing. Before the monster could pull back with a cry of pain, Luffy dug the pipe into the soft flesh of the Sea King, using his pipe to catapult himself onto King's head. This was risky, especially the not jumping out of the way part from earlier, but it was also more effective. Now feeling Luffy on his head, King made a roar which shook the water, making Luffy flinch and cover his ears. Luffy sensed what King was going to do and grabbed onto King's large fin, clutching it and bracing himself when King threw his head back, trying to throw Luffy off. Whoop, I won't let you. When Luffy felt like he wouldn't be thrown off, Luffy raised his pipe, the other hand still holding onto the fin, and began to hit King's head and neck with it. What I mean by you being at both an advantage and disadvantage is, Garp's voice returned, you're at a slight advantage on land, seeing as it can't go there. But you need to be close to be able to hit it, and if you're on it flings you off, you'll either drown or get eaten. That's your disadvantage. Now that I think about it, the disadvantage is bigger than the advantage. Well, if you were strong enough you could just punch it and win, bwaha. King continued his stubborn attempt at throwing Luffy off, but no one could beat Luffy in terms of stubbornness. He managed to get a few more decent hits in before sensing that King was going to dive into the water, and that wouldn't be good. Considering he can't swim and all. So before King got that chance, Luffy gave one last hard hit before jumping off, now on land. King was in the water seconds later, and his body disappeared, but he was still there, Luffy could sense it. So Luffy clutched his pipe and stayed in position, making sure his haki was good enough on the pipe. Avoid the mouth no matter what, one chomp and you're done for. So either dodge it, or hit it away from you. Luffy waited, sensing King getting as close as he could to shore before rising and doing another piercing, open-jawed propel towards him. I don't have enough control on my haki to use that, so, he pursed his lips as King drew closer, raising the pipe to his side. The moment King was close enough, Luffy swung his pipe like a baseball bat, using as much force as his current body had. Another roar sounded from King as his head was smacked away, but one of pain. As if dazed or stunned, King kept his eyes shut as he remained in place, head swinging around slightly. Then, King shook his head and opened his eyes, revealing them to be blood red with sharp, cat-like pupils. This time the roar was definitely anger. But Luffy remained calm, in fact, he got into a completely relaxed stance, shoulders and arms slacking. Even when King came at him with the intent to kill, he reacted with fear, but he wasn't the one receiving it, but rather giving it, sit. He ordered, watching King freeze in place. They started unblinkingly to Luffy, trembling before slowly backing up, forced to obey his order. The order of a king. Right when Luffy thought King was going to run away, which would be bad, considering he needs him to get to where he needs to be, King blinked, and his eyes were normal again. You were harder to catch than I thought. Shishishi. Luffy snickered, placing his hands behind his head. I actually beat you in one hit before. Or, well, later, I guess. But I can't do that right now, you were pretty hard to fight. I had a few close calls there. With a little twirl of his pipe, Luffy placed it on top of the crate from earlier and heaved it up. Now then, you promised if I could beat you I can ride you, right? And I won. I have to go somewhere, but I have no ship, can you take me there? I need to leave now, or as soon as possible. I suppose, you did win. And I'm guessing since you require my help, this place is far. Yeah, Luffy hummed, planting the crate on King's head, who had bent down to allow him to do so. Good thing the crate wasn't heavy, but even if it was, King shouldn't have had that much of a problem. It's in the North Blue, so we'll have to cross the reverse mountain, I think. Maybe I should have bought a map. I got the general idea around here remembered. I guess we'll to stop by an island. It shouldn't be too difficult, this is a normal blue. Reverse mountain. Super big mountain that leads to the Grand Line and other blues. It might be difficult or rough to cross it, but I think you can do it. Luffy replied, hopping up on King's head and trying to find a way to balance both him and the crate. He settled for placing it in front of him, so he'd have something to lean on while also keeping it from falling off. This isn't going to be an easy trip, is it? Nope. Luffy popped the P, but I gotta save not Mingo before it's too late. I don't remember the exact date, I don't think Turao even mentioned it in the first place. So this is related to your mate, I suppose the trouble you're going through makes sense then. If possible, I'd like to help save as many as my friends' important people as possible. Though, I know I can't save all. I'm too weak right now, after all, alright, set sail. I'm not a ship. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me, the author is, again by R. Ron 2K.